Good evening, everyone. All right, I like that. On behalf of the McSilver Institute, welcome to the 2017 McSilver Awards. We're thrilled to have you join us to celebrate 5 brilliant leaders. You know, I affectionately call this evening's honorees disruptors. These are 5 amazing individuals who are driving change, helping to redefine the narrative in the face of challenging times in this country, especially for those who are impacted by poverty. They are leading the resistance. This evening's honorees are without question forces for change. Tonight, it gives me great pleasure that we present the McSilver Award to David Banks, Jelani Cobb, Corey Johnson, Anna Oliveira, and Gary Parker. Please give them a big round of applause. This evening would not be possible without the support of tonight's sponsors: the New York Women's Foundation, Ghetto Film School, NYU School of Dentistry, Clark Fox Policy Institute, Beacon Health Options, Government Affairs and Community Engagement at NYU, New York Association of Psychiatric Rehabilitation Services, and the Institute for Community Living. We are so grateful for your generosity, and we thank you. Before we get started with the program, I would like to say a few things about the McSilver Institute. I was appointed director of McSilver in September 2016, and it has been an amazing whirlwind of a year. I'm truly honored to be working with such an incredible team who are deeply passionate about having impact through evidence-based research. You know, McSilver is not your traditional research institute. At McSilver, we fully embrace the concept that research is a catalyst for creating new knowledge to shape public policy and improve systems that serve individuals and communities that are impacted by poverty. We value that meaningful research does not and cannot happen in isolation. Our work is infused with the input and direct guidance of individuals and communities who are the most affected by poverty, who face structural racism and oppression, as well as a lack of resources and access to opportunities. Indeed, we are living in uncertain times, and it is our goal at McSilver and NYU to shine the light on inequality and to work strategically, to think boldly on new ways to tackle some of the most challenging and pressing issues facing those who are underserved and marginalized in our society. We hope that you will partner with us in this effort to make a difference. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. James Jackert, Interim Dean and Professor of Social Work at NYU's Silver School of Social Work and co-director of the Center for Latino Adolescent and Family Health. The school administration and faculty have been an instrumental partner of McSilver and an incredible source of support to me. Jim is a renowned researcher with expertise in the areas of attitude theory and decision-making, adolescent problem behaviors, and parent-adolescent communication, psychometrics, and theory construction. Jim has been a guiding force for me at NYU, and I greatly benefited from his advice and wise counsel. What I am most impressed about Jim, besides his intellect, is how humble he is. So please welcome Interim Dean James Jackert.
So it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the 2017 McSilver Awards. And on behalf of the Silver School of Social Work, I greet you for tonight's activities. We're here to celebrate NYU Silver's McSilver Institute for Poverty Policy and Research and 5 extraordinary honorees working in diverse sectors to address the needs of people living in poverty. Most of you know that the McSilver mission is to create new knowledge about the root causes of poverty, to develop evidence-based interventions to address its consequences, and translating research findings into action through policy and practice. The McSilver Institute has been a point of pride to the Silver School of Social Work. It's been an amazing institute, an amazing enterprise for us. And since its founding in 2007, when the Institute was started through the vision and generosity of Connie and Marty Silver. I want to give a special welcome and thanks to Connie, who recognized how vital the Institute and its mission are to the NYU Silver, and the efforts that she made to help get the Institute off the ground and started. Connie is a true visionary in what she's done. She's affected the lives of thousands of people in measurable ways, and she has been a constant source of support to the Silver School, and we are deeply indebted to her. Thank you so much, Connie. And she's a really nice person, too, on top of it. Our school, the Silver School, represents the core values of social work, the dignity and worth of the person, the importance of human relationships, integrity, competence, service, and social justice. The work of the McSilver Institute embraces all of these values and is central to our school. As Michael noted, this is his first year as the leader of McSilver, and he's done an amazing job with it. He's putting a strong emphasis of research in the Institute and its evidence-based focus. And one of the things that I appreciate most in Michael and admire most in Michael is that as he develops these evidence-based programs, he's what I call a go-to person. He makes sure that this research goes to the community and has an effect in practice. And bottom line is he gets things done. And we're seeing that in this first year of his leadership. I said Connie's visionary, Michael is also. He's an amazing, amazing person, and I'm really looking forward to working with him in the coming years in the context of McSilver. Congratulations, Michael, on the great job you're doing. It's really cool. Like Michael, this year's honorees challenge the status quo. They stand in solidarity with sensible policy, and they demand action. Thank you, David Banks, Jelani Cobb, Councilman Corey Johnson, Ana Oliveira, and Gary Parker. You are wonderful people. Thank you. With that, I'm going to ask Connie to come up and say a few words to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a thrill to be here. This McSilver Institute, I have to tell you how it started. Many people would be interested in knowing. One day, John Sexton, our former president, called me up and said, "Come on over, let's talk about your B school." I didn't know what he meant, B school. So I sat down with him, and he said, "You know, Connie, we have a lot of wonderful schools here. We have not too many A schools, but a few. We have too many B schools, and we have one C school, which will not be mentioned." But he said, "You are a B school." And And by the way, I used to have, before that talk with John Sexton, I had flaming red hair. My hair turned gray when I heard this. That being pretty old. Anyway, I said to John, John, explain to me how this is a B school. We do the best possible clinical treatment. We're out there on the streets. We do everything well. Why is this a B school? He said, well, you are very good clinically. He said, but you don't have a clue as to how you base your clinical treatment. He said, Connie, you must base all clinical treatment on something that you've learned, and you learn from research. So I went home that night, and I took one piece of paper, and I wrote on this piece of paper, try to think of a name, and my family name, my father and mother, were McCatherine, that's my maiden name, and my husband is Silver. So I call this, the McSilver Institute for Poverty, Policy, and Research. So I wrote on this piece of paper what McSilver would do. And I knew we had to have some researchers, but the only one I could find was myself. So the first researcher was me, and I assigned myself a job, and many of you don't know this, I assigned myself a job to research children in poverty in the South Bronx. And I made a lot of trips to the Bronx. That was my first. My second employee was Gary here. And Gary was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And between us, we hired Mary McKay to set up shop with us. And you too, Jason, you were a big help, to set up shop with us. And all of a sudden, we had the McSilver Institute for Poverty Policy and Research. And the people that we're giving awards to tonight, our awardees, are absolutely magnificent. And nowhere 6 or 7 years ago could I ever imagine that I'd be standing in front of this wonderful group with these great awardees, and also standing in front of the best interim shintrum, the best dean that we've ever had in the School of Social Work. Yay! And you know, we've done our best to try to get him to stay, but I think he'd rather swallow razor blades. He has such wonderful research that he needs to complete. At any rate, thank you so much for all you've done for us. I can't tell you how it makes my little heart beat. Michael, I turn it over to you, and go forth.
Thank you, Connie. I just want to say how much you mean to me and how supportive you've been of me this year. And so whenever I need to call on you and talk through things, your wise counsel and your availability and just support means a lot to me, so thank you. It gives me great pleasure to present the 2017 McSilver honorees, beginning with Mr. David Banks. As the founding principal of the Eagle Academy for Young Men, and now as president of the Academy's foundation, David Banks established the first all-boys public high school in New York City in over 30 years, founded on the belief that excellence, both in character and scholarship, opens doors and provides a bridge to equality. Since opening in 2004, the Eagle Academy has grown to encompass a total of 6 schools in all 5 boroughs, as well as in Newark. David is a nationally recognized leader in the field of education, and there are not enough words to describe David's impact on this city. As we say around the way, you continue to drop the knowledge, brother. Before bringing David to the stage, I would like to share a video that we filmed, which provides a small glimpse of David's visionary leadership.
There's an ongoing kind of media assault on black men. All the images that you see overwhelmingly are negative images. of young black men who are men to be feared. Very rarely do you see young black men engage in acts of kindness and compassion. It's constantly a very negative image that's drilled into the psyche and the consciousness of the collective society. And so I think the Eagle Academy is an attempt at a real response of young men who understand who they really are, who understand, in fact, what's happening and this kind of how the system operates against them and what they need to do to be able to overcome those hurdles. So I think what we do at Eagle is we really pour into these young men the kinds of energy that they need that gives them a sense of hope.
Please welcome 2017 McSilver honoree, David Banks.
Good evening, everyone. To Trustee Silver, Dean Jacquard, my new dear friend, Dr. Lindsay, to Rose Pierre-Louis, who I've known for many years, and to my fellow honorees, congratulations to each and every one of you. Particular shout out to Anna, who has been a dear friend of mine, and we've been comrades in arms in this work for many, many years. And thank you for all of you who came out to support not only me, but all of us who are here just trying to do what we can do to make a difference. And so I simply want to say that I accept this award on behalf of the more than 3,000 young black men who I work with them and their families each and every day. We have a school in every borough in New York City and one in Newark, New Jersey. And we are trying to help these young men to be able to manifest the destiny that God has really placed on their lives and to help them to fight against the assault that they face each and every day. And so I thank you for the vision of this institute, and thank you so much for recognizing me and the work that we're doing on behalf of these young men and their families. God bless you, and thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Our next McSilver honoree represents District 3 in the New York City Council, which includes the West Village, Greenwich Village, Chelsea, Hell's Kitchen, Flatiron, and part of the Upper West Side. New York City Councilmember Corey Johnson has earned a reputation as a tenacious advocate for his constituents and a prolific legislator at City Hall. He has passed more bills than nearly any other council member with legislation that protects victims of domestic violence and LGBT New Yorkers, improves school health outcomes, aims to end the school-to-prison pipeline, and much, much more. Councilmember Johnson has helped create thousands of new units of affordable housing in Council District 3. And through the budget process, he has allocated crucial funding to housing and social service providers that fight homelessness and poverty every day. Closer to home at NYU, Councilmember Johnson is a sponsor of the School of Dentistry's mobile van, Give Kids a Smile program. We are delighted that the NYU School of Dentistry has joined us as a sponsor tonight, largely in recognition of Councilmember Johnson's support of their school's efforts. In addition to his accomplishments as a legislator with a very bright future, I gotta say, following Corey Johnson on social media is a lot of fun. I love the singing, council member. Corey Johnson is an activist to his core, and the following video is a testament to his work.
I think if you run for office because you want to change the world a little bit. And it can sound hokey or corny, but the real truth is I ran to be a city council member because I wanted to make the world a better place. I wanted to make New York City a better place. I wanted to make these neighborhoods that I represent even better. And I wanted to fight for our most vulnerable citizens. I wanted to fight for folks that have been left behind, folks that really need a champion in government. And so my time in office has really been focused on those type of folks, whether it be victims and survivors of domestic violence or homeless New Yorkers, transgendered New Yorkers, women and children and poor folks. Those are the folks that I are fighting for, along with my constituents. And some of those folks are my constituents. So that is how I channel my own activism into the work I get to do every day as an elected official.
Please welcome McSilver honoree, New York City Councilmember, Corey Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. I don't actually sing on Twitter. I'm usually lip syncing to Lady Gaga on Twitter. I wish I had a voice like hers. I wanted to thank you, Dr. Lindsay, for that very kind introduction. I want to thank the McSilver Institute for this great honor, and I want to congratulate my fellow honorees. It's truly an honor to be recognized alongside such accomplished people who have dedicated their lives to the public good. It's nice to see Gary Parker, who I've known for a very long time, and Anna, who's a close friend as well. I'm not going to really talk about the work I do down at City Hall because it's not boring, but I just feel like that given the crazy times we're in, I just want to talk a little bit about, I think, the context of McSilver in this wacky world we're living in. And what I want to say is that every day, each one of us experiences a little bit of daily PTSD watching the news. And in these times, up feels down and left feels right, and it's really hard to cope. But my message has been, since the November elections and since the inauguration in January, that no one should feel hopeless. No one should feel disempowered. Every single one of us, not just elected officials, actually the people are more important than the elected officials now more than ever. Every single one of us has the ability to push back and to be a leader. And every major movement that has happened in American history over the last 100 years, whether it be the African American Civil Rights Movement or the women's suffrage movement, or the movement for LGBT rights, which happened just down the street here at Stonewall, started here. The movement for farm workers' rights, and the movement against the wars. All of these movements were started by people, not by elected officials. They were led by people, not by elected officials. And the way we make our country and our city a more just, more whole, more fair place is through movements, is through looking at the structural issues that exist and figuring out how to fight back against those injustices. And most of these movements, if not all, were resisted by elected officials. Most elected officials, and I hope I'm not one of them, most elected officials are not people that always just right off the bat say, you know, that's right, and I'm going to do the right thing. Most elected officials have to be drugged to that spot. You have to drag them there. And that is why it is so important to have informed citizens, like all the folks here at McSilver, that are doing this work day in and day out. There is still so much injustice in New York City. Tonight, 60,000 people will sleep in a homeless shelter. 60,000. 25,000 of whom are children under the age of 16 years old. Most of whom are black and brown children. Every year, 60,000 people or so cycle in and out of Rikers Island. Most of them pre-trial detainees who simply cannot make their bail. There is a lot of injustice in New York City. And we can do our part, as Attorney General Eric Schneiderman says, when they go low, we go local. There is work to be done here in New York City. And with the folks that study here at McSilver, and with the folks that work here at McSilver, and with the folks that lead McSilver and research at McSilver, and do all of this important work, ensuring that no New Yorker is left behind, that we look at the root cause of poverty and injustice, and we take up arms on their behalf. The resistance is strong. The epicenter is New York City. And every single one of us have to do our part to push back, because not long from now, people are going to say, in 2017, what did you do? Our kids and grandkids are going to say, when a demagogue, pathological liar, autocrat who pitted Americans against Americans, what did you do in that moment? And one of the things we must do is stand shoulder to shoulder and fight for the most vulnerable, and to do our part to change our city and make it a more just city. Thank you all very much for having me tonight.
Powerful, powerful. Jelani Cobb has written brilliantly and beautifully on the issues of racial injustice in America. Dr. Cobb joined the journalism school faculty at Columbia University in 2016. He has contributed to The New Yorker since 2012 and became a staff writer in 2015. His articles and essays have appeared in The Washington Post, The New Republic, Essence, Vibe, The Progressive, and TheRoot.com. He was most recently an associate professor of history and director of the Africana Studies Institute at the University of Connecticut, where he specialized in post-Civil War African American history, 20th century American politics, and the history of the Cold War. Dr. Cobb is also a recipient of fellowships from the Fulbright and Ford Foundations. He is the author of the book, The Substance of Hope, Barack Obama and the Paradox of Progress, as well as one of my favorites, To the Break of Dawn, a freestyle of the hip-hop aesthetic. Jelani Cobb is an extraordinary writer and thought leader of our time. I would like to direct your attention to the screen for a powerful commentary by Jelani.
In the past year, we've seen mobilization in the politics of race and racial resentment. And in this country, we've often understood poverty as a kind of zero-sum game, that if we do anything that helps poor people of color out of poverty, that somehow or another white people lose as a result of it. So there's a connection between race and poverty and the rise of Trump. And unfortunately, it's a demonstration of one of the things that we've seen people get wrong time and time again in society, which is that we direct resentments at people, and not just African Americans, but also Latinos, immigrants, Muslims, people in various communities that can be scapegoated as the problem. And we say that someone else's economic fortunes are declining because of the people who are in these groups. But in reality, I think there are these commonalities and there are these common elements when we see the way that wealth has concentrated in the hands of a very small number of people in the society and has become an increasingly pyramidal structure to the American economy. The small number of people on the top who have a great deal and a large number of people on the bottom who have very little. And as long as we see racial resentment continue to be the kind of profitable political enterprise that it has been, it will be that much more difficult for us to actually address the causes of poverty in this country.
Please welcome Dr. Jelani Cobb.
Good evening. I want to say, there's something I think that you all should know that you actually don't know. I don't think anybody knows this, which is that my beloved late mother was a graduate of the NYU School of Social Work. And wait, it gets better, actually. She grew up in segregated Alabama, and she always wanted to go to college. And she got married very early. She had my siblings, she had me. She worked very hard, and it never seemed to be a time. But when she was 52, she enrolled here. Yeah, and she finished her bachelor's in social work, and then she hadn't gotten enough of you all. She finished her master's here as well. And so I'll accept this on her behalf and in her memory. And so I'll say this very briefly and succinctly. I write a lot about institutions. I write about race. People kind of will say that I write a lot about race, but more often than not, I'm writing about institutions. I'm writing about policing. I'm writing about education and so on. And it's because as someone who grew up cycling on that cusp between poverty and just above poverty in New York City, I understood very intimately the way that institutions play a functional role, a critical and crucial role in how our lives turn out. Anything that I have accomplished in addition to my parents is attributable to the public education that I got in New York City, to the HBCU where I got my bachelor's degree, at State University where I got my master's and doctorate. And each of these are institutions that are explicitly there to help us navigate, to try to change and provide opportunities where they might not exist otherwise. And so that's what motivates me, and that's what I think is so important about the McSilver Institute and the work that you do in the School of Social Work here in general. And so I'm very much humbled, very much thankful, and very much committed to continuing the work that we all have in front of us. Until at some point, I look forward to that day when these are antiquated questions, when people will say, wow, remember when we used to have to worry about those things. But until that day, thank you, and we'll continue the work.
Our next honoree was named by M.M. LaFleur as the most remarkable woman in the world. I'm gonna repeat that. By M.M. LaFleur as the most remarkable woman in the world. Without question, Anna is one of the most outstanding and impactful leaders New York City has ever had. Anna Oliveira is president and CEO of the New York Women's Foundation, the largest women's fund in the country. Since 2006, Anna has led the increase of the foundation's grant making from $1.7 million to $7.6 million today. Focusing on economic security, safety, and health, in 30 years, the foundation has distributed over $58 million to 371 organizations. The New York Women's Foundation hands down hosts the best event every year, which is the Celebrating Women Breakfast. It brings together over 3,500 activists, philanthropists in support of New York City's women and girls. Anna Oliveira is co-chair of the New York City Council Speakers Young Women's Initiative and a commissioner of Human Rights for the New York City Commission on Human Rights. She sits on the Independent Commission to study criminal justice reform in New York City and is on the board of the Philanthropy New York. Under Anna's leadership, the New York Women's Foundation has inspired many of the city's activists, philanthropists, many whom are here tonight. On behalf of the McSilver Institute, I would also like to congratulate Anna and the New York Women's Foundation on their 30th anniversary, which they recently celebrated. Anna, as a feminist, I know where I'll be next year. Anna is an exceptional leader, and this video provides a wonderful perspective on the importance of philanthropy.
The New York Women's Foundation has a deep belief that philanthropy is that engagement that we together change the world. It's another way of changing the world. Traditional civic engagement, like voting, like having a voice, like showing one's beliefs, standing up for causes, standing up for candidates, standing up for policies is very important. Philanthropy is another part of that. We use the philanthropy which we come together, like my monies and your monies and the other person's monies, so that together we make a much bigger difference. Philanthropy, philanthropy is the love of humanity. Is the idea that when we give, we transcend each one of ourselves and we create another opportunity for humanity, it's creating another possibility. Typically, we prefer to create with, so that activism of philanthropy, engaging with community, engaging with others to create or co-create solutions that are better is really what we are about. We want people to have ownership. Philanthropy belongs to all of us. It's not just for the uber wealthy or the wealthy. That's why collective giving is so important.
Please welcome Anna Oliveira.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to Michael and Rose Pierre-Louis and terrific McSilver Institute. Thank you for your vision and your dedication to make it happen. You are all very generous people. Just let me begin by saying that. And let me, just say how honored I am to be receiving this, and I'll tell you in a minute who I think truly is receiving this. But for the moment, my dear friend David, years ago, we worked together in the Young Men's Initiative under Mayor Bloomberg, which was an inspiration to the Young Women's Initiative that Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito has, we've been able to partner now. So I want you to know that we began half of the equation then, and we have moved to the other part of the equation. I'm so honored to be in the presence of course, Councilmember Corey Johnson, Gary, and Dr. Jelani, who I did not know. Thank you so much for bringing your mother here. That meant a lot to me, and our ancestors are so much of who we are, right? And so much of our strength. So this award really belongs to a group of women that are sitting right here in various roles who make the New York Women's Foundation. If you don't mind just standing up for a moment, we have staff members, board members, alumni. We have supporters of the foundation. And imagine that there are, I'm going to say 340, 360 other leaders who actually are the ones that do the work that matters because they run the organizations, they are policy makers, they are advocates. Rose Pierre-Louis is just standing up already. Rose is also a past board member of the foundation. I just realized that you did not stand up with a little group, but we want you counted in there, Rose. So the foundation, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to talk about the kind of philanthropy that we think that matters. And that is the philanthropy that is with. And that is the philanthropy that we actually prefer to follow, not to tell folk what they should do. how they should respond to their problems. We prefer to follow, we prefer to partner, we prefer to bring the difference from our perspective, but very much, sitting on, not on the driver's seat, but on the passenger seat. We believe that philanthropy is truly a co-creation, and it's very important that we don't replicate the patterns of inequality in the process of being a philanthropist, that the philanthropy itself changes the relationships of power. Of course, we're very aware that because we still are funders, there's always an inequality there, but we work very hard to mitigate that. So, and I wanted to say that, my co-honorees speaking about some of the challenges and opportunities about the issues of solidarity, about understanding who we are and who we stand with. I want to say yes, ditto, ditto, ditto. And I do think that actually radical change is possible, that radical change is necessary. As of late at the foundation, we adopted a tagline that is radical generosity. And that is the kind of generosity that goes to the roots, just as the McSilver work does go to the roots of poverty, the roots of racism. And so we believe generosity and philanthropy must do the same, because those solutions are more profound solutions, they are lasting solutions, and they are solutions that can be generated by those who really live the lives, all of our lives. So I do want to say that the foundation is currently very engaged and committed in the idea and the plan, it's not just an idea, of closing our local mass incarceration system, which is Rikers Island. We all know that we have gifts in our lives. We live in historical moments, and here and there, there's an opportunity to boldly seize changes that are needed and be part of that, so that when people ask us what we did in 2017, right, and 2018, and so forth and so on, we have the most powerful answers. The foundation always funds issues around poverty and economic justice, issues around racism, all forms of racism, anti-Black racism, anti-Muslim, anti-immigration, all kinds of racism. The foundation is very concerned about gender and its role in shaping our lives, and is very concerned with gender inequality, moving towards gender equality. And the foundation is very, very concerned with democratic practices, inclusiveness, not just diversity, but inclusiveness, which means sharing of power. So my last comment is that in these moments, I find that clarity is very important. It is a time that offers us the gift to be able to be clear with where we stand, with who we stand with, what we stand for. So it is an honor for me, for everyone else to whom this award belongs, to our grantee leaders, to be able to be receiving an award from an institution that is very clear about its commitment in anti-poverty, anti-racism, the McSilver Institute. Thank you so much.
So awesome. Our final honoree has been instrumental to the development and growth of the McSilver Institute, and we are honored to present Gary Parker with the Values of McSilver Award. Gary Parker is an Associate Dean of External Affairs at the Brown School of Social Work at Washington University in St. Louis. He has also been named the inaugural director of the Clark Fox Policy Institute, which envisions a more just and equitable world in which policy solutions are both impactful and innovative. Prior to joining Washington University, Gary was the first deputy director of McSilver. Gary has held diverse government and public service positions, including community liaison to New York State Assembly member Deborah Glick, district manager of Manhattan Community Board 5, and Director of Government and Community Affairs at NYU. Gary, we are grateful for your leadership and for all you've done to make McSilver Institute what it is today. The following video provides great insight about the founding of the McSilver Institute.
You know, Robert Hawkins will always hold the badge of honor of being the very first McSilver Faculty of Poverty Studies. And I get to hold a very similar badge of honor. I was the very first administrator at the McSilver Institute. And the great thing about starting up an institute is that you get to create an organizational culture. And we worked really hard at that while I was at McSilver. And we created a culture that recognized that people are people and they need to be supported not only as professionals, but also in their personal lives, to find a healthy work-life balance, to be able to acknowledge and recognize the accomplishments and successes that they're doing at work, but also celebrate what's happening in their personal lives. And I think that brings a much more holistic and wholesome experience to the workplace, and it's one where people can thrive.
Please welcome the 2017 Values of McSilver Award honoree, Gary Parker.
Thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Thank you, Dean Jackard. Thank you, Connie Silver. You know, another little known story, 5 years ago, I called up Connie Silver and I said, Connie, we have to have the McSilver Awards. And we need to start acknowledging people for the work that they're doing, addressing, you know, the root causes and consequences of poverty. And thankfully, she said, that's a great idea. Let's move forward with that. Of course, my friend Bruce, who's in the audience today, said, I think you founded the awards just in hopes that one day you might actually receive one. And all I can say in response is mission accomplished. So, and I also want to say, you know, a shout out to Corey Johnson, who we were like scrappy grassroots front lines activists. We loved a good fight, and I'm just so proud to see how you have just come into your own, and you're such a powerful and amazing leader, and I'm happy to have that long history with you. I want to acknowledge my husband, the amazingly talented and incredibly handsome Jeremy Dewey. We just celebrated our first anniversary, and it's been an incredible... And I also, just a few of the people, I have to acknowledge Karen Foyer, who was my first supervisor. She was Deborah Glick's chief of staff, and it was my first job out of graduate school, and boy, were you patient with me. So thank you so much. And also, Bob Schachter, who's the former executive director of NASW, is here today, and I just wanted to thank him for always showing his support. And of course, I see Mary, and I see Phil, and all of these folks that have just been so incredibly supportive. I just want to thank you. But this award I accept really not on my behalf, but on behalf of the amazing people that I got to work with at the McSilver Institute, because I didn't build this institute, we built it. And your commitment and your drive and your passion for addressing poverty, for developing an anti-racist agenda within the institute and within our work really was just so incredibly inspiring. So this award is really your award. And finally, I just want to also acknowledge my mother, Stella, who's somewhere out there in the, there she is, right there, and her partner, Barbara. Since we're talking about our moms, so my mom fled an abusive marriage, and she raised my sister and I on her own. And those were some tough times. We were on public assistance, and she really struggled to make ends meet. And to see the type of oppression that my mother faced as a woman, the type of oppression that she faced as a lesbian, and the type of challenges that she faced as a single parent really is what drives me today. and it's what makes me, do what I do and get up every morning. So, Mom, this award is for you. Thank you for all that you do. I love you.
Another round of applause for our 2007 honorees. I would like to thank everyone in attendance for your support, and we look forward to working with you throughout the year. Once again, to all of our 2007 sponsors, a heartfelt thanks for all your support. Before I close, I want to express my thanks to those who were instrumental to making this event possible. First, I want to acknowledge Sheena Wright, former McSilver Awardee and CEO of the United Way, New York City. Also, Honorable Ronald Richter, former family court judge and former commissioner, New York City Administration for Children's Services. And also NYU trustee Phyllis Barish. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you to the NYU Law School and staff for hosting us this evening. We appreciate you. Also would like to thank the incredible staff at McSilver. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give them applause, please. Special thanks to Amanda Alcantara and Miles Martin for their leadership organizing this event, as well as our Chief of Staff, Amu Kowolik. And I just want to say, this evening would not be possible without the leadership of our Deputy Director, Rose Pierre-Louis. Rose, my sincere thanks to you for making this event a success, and thank you for joining us at McSilver, and thank you for just every day working with you and all the support that you provide for us. Thank you. I would also like to acknowledge the following leaders who are also here with us tonight. Sibel Raver, Vice Provost, Academic, Faculty, and Research Affairs at NYU. Chairperson Silda Palerm and Tiana Bien Aimé, former New York City Commission on Gender Equity. Joshua Laub, where's Joshua? Director for Youth Development, District 88, Office of Safety and Youth Development, New York City Department of Education. Nika Milburn, Office of Governor Andrew Cuomo. Marjorie Cadogan, Executive Deputy Commissioner for New York City Human Resources and Administration. Jerica Richardson, Senior Advisor for the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board. Henry Greenwich, Assistant Director for External Affairs for the Mayor's Office on Climate Policy and Programs. Luke Sever, Chief of Staff of the New York City Administration for Children's Services, Office of Policy. Flores Forbes, Associate Vice President of Government and Community Affairs at Columbia University. And Basil Smikle, Executive Director of the New York State Democratic Party. Thank you, everyone. Once again, we look forward to seeing you next year. Now I'd like to invite everyone to the back of the room for a reception. I would ask the honorees to remain here for photos. Thank you, everyone, and good night.